It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Casey.
And I'm Ashli. Last time we talked about the Angry Beavers Groundhog Day parody, same time last week, sorry.
I did the same thing last week. Literally. All right. We've got some Twitter poll results for you guys. We asked last week if you guys would rather relive the same day or the same week over and over again. 15% of you said same day, and 85% of you said the same week. So, pretty clear decision there from you guys.
This week we are back to Rocko's Modern Life with the episode Fortune Cookie. Our New Year's resolution this year was to do more Rocko's Modern Life, so we're getting back to it. Also, we did sort of cancel this one, move it back a week due to, the unexpected Groundhog Day episode there, so we are getting to it now, guys. I know you've been waiting a whole extra week, so we'll try and make it extra great just for you.
Oh, and I'm realizing we've now bumped it twice, because by canceled episode, I wrote this before we bumped it in the script.
Yeah.
So I was referring to the first time we originally canceled it at the end of 2017. So sorry, Fortune Cookie, we love this episode, and we just keep punting it downfield.
But hey, we're there.
It's happening. Although, I just thought of this great Real Monsters episode. Why don't we just watch that right now? All right, guys. Follow us on Twitter at FNN_podcast and Facebook, facebook.com/FNN podcast. Review us on Apple Podcasts and check us out on YouTube. We love seeing your comments there.
Absolutely. I know we've been getting some great sort of discussions going on in there. So thanks, guys, for all of your participation. And also, thanks so much, as always, for tuning in. Now let's get started.
From the Nicktoon Animation Studio in Hollywood.
Alright, as stated before, our episode this week is from Rocko's Modern Life. It's called Fortune Cookie. This one was Season 3, Episode 8A, and it aired on December 17th, 1995.
Yes, I'm just barely alive at this point. Well, a little bit more than barely.
Like now? Are you just telling us your current, state in life? Just barely clinging.
The date that Fortune Cookie aired, thank you. In this one, every fortune cookie that Filburt opens predicts dire consequences for him, and,
Indeed it does.
It's pretty great. I feel bad for the poor guy, but it's funny to watch, can't lie.
Okay, and I'm gonna be shameless right now, and, lock me up for collusion, or whatever you want to call it, but go vote for Filburt in the Nick Madness. If you listen to this podcast, I am fully endorsing Filburt to win Nick Madness. I don't think he's even seeded top 8 when that ends up coming out, but I want Filburt to do some damage. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Last year we were all like, we won't tell you who to vote for, and now I'm like, vote for Filburt or you're canceled as a listener.
Look, Casey needs to calm down a dash, but Filburt is pretty great, I'll give him that. But before we get to Filburt and all of his misfortune, I love that we open up in this fortune cookie factory. And there's just this worker, and he's writing, all sorts of good things. You are an inspiration to everyone. You're going to have an amazing life. You're going to have nothing but happiness. And then he just, takes one, and he writes something along the lines of, you'll have misfortune for the rest of your miserable life, or something like that.
Yeah.
Miserable soul? I don't even... It gets dark.
Yeah,
He just writes this one, horribly dark fortune, and then he just keeps going right in the positive ones, and it's gold.
It's similar to Angry Beavers last week. It's just a solid concept of an episode before it's even written. It's what a great idea that there's because everyone always jokes about that. What if my fortune cookie was just really mean and negative, and now we see what that happens with a really adorable, likable character.
Yeah, and you can't help but feel bad for him. You just can't. Oh, well, and also important, before he even gets this fortune cookie, he finds out that he is Mr. Lucky.
Mr. Lucky.
On this, which, it's so... There's so much. So they go to wake him up to let him know that he's Mr. Lucky, and they literally just, like, trash his trailer completely. And
also the fact that he, like, lives in a trailer is kind of great, too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's doing the best he can, alright? But they just completely trash it, and then they're like, hey, you're Mr. Lucky, you have a chance to win. I actually don't know if they say it here or at the end. But we find out, eventually, one way or another, that, like, his grand prize is a new trailer.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
His whole Mr. Lucky moment is pretty much just being brought back to where he was in the first place. Anyways.
Right. And is it they celebrate with Chinese food? Is that how the fortune cookie thing comes
That
to
sounds
be?
right. They're either celebrating or they just felt like getting it.
Go get it, yeah. And, you know, they open their fortune cookies, and Rocco's is perfectly normal and bland, and same with Heifer's. And then we get to Filburt, and it's this really, you know, you will have pain and misery for the rest of your pathetic life, or something like that. And it's very dark. And then suddenly all this bad stuff keeps happening to him. It's just like the Friday the 13th episode from Hey Arnold, where Arnold is refusing to believe in bad luck as bad stuff just keeps happening to him over and over again.
Yeah, and, like, stereotypically bad stuff, too, right? We've got the black cats are swarming him, he breaks a mirror, a ladder falls on him, you know, just, like,
right.
all of those sort of bad luck charms.
Enough, Steven Hillenburg wrote this episode, the creator of SpongeBob, and you can really see his instincts here. You know, like, this totally could have been an episode of SpongeBob.
Oh, for sure. It plays right in. Just, like, over the top. This is the episode where terrible things are happening, so all of the terrible things are going to happen in the most exaggerated way humanly possible.
Right. It's like, what's the one we just did? The art class one that's like, you know, when SpongeBob needs to be good at art, he's bad at it, and when he needs to be bad at it, he's good at it.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what's going on. And then we clip to this scene, and Casey, I don't even know where to begin with this. There's a pigeon.
Nor do I. Yeah, there's a pigeon, and it's very, it's quite the character. Like, it's a very sort of, stressed out's the wrong word, but it's sort of, perturbed. And, we see Big Man, the, like, superhero of this universe, who is down there. What's even really going on here? I don't totally get it. They're just walking by this scene, right? Filburt is?
Yeah, so, because the pigeon is just basically threatening to crap all over everything, right? That's literally what's happening?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna do it.
And then the
and
superhero,
Big Man
I forget
is
his
trying
name.
to stop it. Big Man. Yeah.
Big Man.
Which
What
is
a name.
also great. And he's got this, you know, big chest, very muscly, and he's like, the pigeon is talking about how, like, bad everything is, and he's like, well, just gaze into my nipples of the future, and you'll see that you're wrong. Which might be a top 5 Nicktoon line ever for me. No exaggeration.
It shouldn't be surprising to me that the same show that said nice melons, high five, is capable of referencing nipples of the future.
We should tell our listeners about the emoji shuffle that we do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we've ever explicitly mentioned that. So for the whole time now, Ashley and I have set our Facebook conversation emoji to specific things relating to the show.
Yeah, and...
Like, what did it start with? Video games?
No, it started as a pizza, but that was just because pizza. Like, I don't think it was...
Yeah, it was just dumb. Yeah, it was just dumb. But then we did, like, the video games episode, and we changed it, and because of something with Animal Crossing, maybe. But, anyway...
Oh, and then we changed it to the dolphin because of
the dolphin, because
after the
of the
SpongeBob movie.
The ridiculous dolphin in the second SpongeBob movie. And currently it's a high five. Well, it's the praying hands, but it's also high fives. And I always hear it in Filburt's voice, so that was inspired by the Melons episode. Thought you guys should know. If only there was a nipple emoji we could use.
Unfortunately.
But so when the pigeon looks into the nipples of the future, he goes, Streisand tickets! And they all start singing this, like, show tune about laundry. It's very Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is.
Oh, and then Big Man, so enter Filburt. In this already weird scene, and it just gets weirder. Big Man goes, my nipples have been overpowered by the presence of some unlucky force. And then someone yells, run for your lives! The nipples are out of control! And so the pigeon goes right back to, trying to literally take a dump on everyone. And Filburt is then at the base of this tower where the pigeon is, and there are all these black cats around him. He's suddenly under a ladder, and then we cut away before hearing a pretty ghastly sound effect describing what the pigeon just did to Filburt.
Which, again, it's just not his day, right? He's not having a good time. So after all this madness happening, they decide to go back to the Chinese place, and literally Filburt just picks up, like, a pile of fortune cookies. And he's just like, alright, guys, we're gonna do this. Rocko picks up one, and it's good. Heifer picks up one, and it's great. And he literally, like, every cookie he picks up is specifically the same miserable fortune. Every one of them. And it's rough. Again, you gotta feel for the guy.
His breakdown is a little too relatable just before that, too. He's, like, just trying to cling to his sanity, and he can't believe this is happening to him. He's like, I'm Mr. Lucky! I'm Mr. Lucky! It's pretty sad.
Also, I just want to get back to this game show, too. It's like this giant wheel with, like, I don't know, like, 50, maybe, little, spots on it, and only one of them is a winner. So how lucky is he even? He has like a 1 in 50 shot at winning a trailer to replace the trailer that they destroyed. So it's like, him being Mr. Lucky, I think, is funny in itself, but he's also not, right? Like, obviously. So, thankfully, though, Heifer has this brilliant moment where it's depicted so well. We see this mouse sort of in a maze finding cheese within Heifer's brain as he's, like, forming his idea. It's so good.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. Also very SpongeBob.
Yeah, and, it kind of reminded me, it's different, but it reminded me of Patrick's, inside of his brain, we see that milk carton just falling over.
Well, or there was his unaired ending of Shanghai, remember?
Oh, yeah.
What is it? It's like a light bulb that half turns on or something.
Something like that.
No, it's a toaster that only toasts one piece of bread.
Yes. It's right up that alley, man. And it's
totally
great.
Is.
But he decides, oh, look, there's this good luck charm. I'm going to give it to Rocko, and it's all going to be gold. Mm-hmm. So, and then it happens. It's the big day. Filburt's going to spin the wheel, and again, it's this terrible wheel with, like, the slightest chance of winning.
It says lose, like, 100 times and win once.
Yeah, and he spins it, and it just starts destroying the whole town. It, like, similarly to, but a little bit differently, because this is a little bit more of a fantasy world, but similar to way back when we did Rugrats in Paris, when I'm like, guys, people died during that robot scene. There's no way they didn't. People died during this wheel scene. Like, innocent lives were lost.
Yeah, maybe we need to, like, keep count of how many times, like, people had to have died in a Nicktoons moment. Like, there was another the Angry Beavers one where they, like, take a rocket to the moon, and don't they crash? I don't even remember.
I don't remember all the details,
there's gotta be more. There's gotta be more.
There are certain deaths happening all around, and this is one of them. It's just all over the place. I do want to give some credit to, there's a theme song reference where, like, literally, like, the wheel spins through the scene that we see during the theme and it's great.
Hysterical, yeah. And we get a brief little ba 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 da ba. Yeah, that was incredible. So refreshing and original, really.
Yeah, it's so much, and so much is happening, and all the while Filbert's just holding his eyes closed. He's like, I can't look at the wheel, I can't watch this happen, and again, the entire place gets destroyed, but it comes back, and it lands on Win, and he's like, I'm Mr. Lucky, and it
ends. And it's, again, that SpongeBob thing where he finally wins, but he wins what? You're Mr. Lucky in, like, a post-apocalyptic Earth now? Because we see the wheel, like, run lines over the entire globe and just destroy it. So, like,
yes.
now that he gets what he wants, there's the irony where it doesn't matter anymore.
And, again, I just can't get over this. He's getting back a trailer that they destroyed. Right? Like, I just can't get over it. It's not like he wins a mansion.
Rocko's house.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I guess he destroyed the entire world, so...
He, like, seeks asylum in Rocko's house, and then that gets blown up, too.
Once you've destroyed the world, Casey, do individual houses even matter?
That's very true. Once the wheel we've seen it roll over entire oceans.
It's
a funny show. It just defies logic, but in a smart way that follows its own rules.
Yeah, and that's our New Year's resolution in the first place. I'm so glad that we're digging back into the show. It absolutely deserves it.
Me too. And I think once we wrap up Nick Madness, we should touch on our third Rocko's episode that we didn't get to from our special and just kind of space it out over 2018, you know?
Right. And I don't want to get, too long about this. I know we've got a lot more Rocko's coming, so I don't want us to rehash too many things too many times, but I just feel like this episode does such a good job of really having the world down. It has Filbert's character in such a good place. And, between this one and the High Five episode, Filburt has just so many gold moments. And I'll be honest, I didn't even remember him prior to us starting up this podcast and rewatching it. Like, I couldn't have named him.
I barely remembered him. And, like, it's interesting because Heifer is certainly a more prominent character, but the episodes we've watched have just happened to focus on him, and I really like him. And I am exaggerating. I don't know who he's paired up against in round one of Nick Madness. I may not even vote for him in round one, but I think he's a great character who deserves a lot of love. You'll hear me sticking up for him whether he advances or whether he's eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I will say, Casey, I caution you getting too optimistic. And, in your prediction bracket, you might want to think it through before you...
Yeah, if we barely remembered him before we did this, then
right.
Yeah, we should be careful.
And I think we've got to remember that the general population who has not listened to our wonderful podcast giving you all of the insight into all of the shows that we have might be in the same place that we were, a year... or a little bit more than, right? A year ago now?
Over a year and a half ago.
Either way.
Like 7 months.
Probably even a year ago, though, we didn't know a whole lot about Rocko's. We hadn't dug into the show. So I totally don't blame people for not voting for these characters, but if you love and watch the show, you know what, though? It does have its special coming up, so maybe it's got more love than we realize.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it does.
Because if they're bringing it back for that, they wouldn't do that for no reason at all, right?
Wasn't Rocko's the one that blew the other shows out of the water in one of your Nick trivias for me, where it was like which had the most Facebook likes, and Rocko's had like in the millions and the others didn't, or something?
It could have been. I know I asked a Facebook-related question. I don't remember anymore.
I'm positive Rocko's won, because I think I picked Angry Beavers, because I thought it was more popular than it was.
It was between...
And that and All Real Monsters, right?
That sounds right. That sounds absolutely right, actually. And
Rocko's had, like, more than double all the others.
And again, I think part of that is because of... Well, I think rather, part of the reason that it got its special must be because of that, right? There's
a fan base.
There must be. Like, I am... And genuinely, when I first heard about it, and that wasn't even too long ago, I was like, oh my god, why does Rocko's get a special? Why does it even need this?
Yeah.
And we have gone well back on our word on that. I am pumped for that special to come out. So, anything else? Any other thoughts you've got?
Well, in terms of the show, so I'm looking at our stats of how much we've watched of things, and Rocko's has now bumped its way up to 8th, tied with As Told by Ginger, but I do, for a tiebreaker, I do whichever one was watched more recently, so obviously Rocko's. So it's now, it goes Hey Arnold, SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, Rugrats, Beavers, Rocket Power, and then Rocko's, and it's over Ren and Stimpy, it's over Invader Zim, it's over Teenage Robot and Thornberrys. So it's like solidly in the middle. It's kind of a not quite a regular for us yet, but I think that's interesting that I certainly wouldn't have predicted that we'd be doing a lot of Rocko's Modern Life when we started this podcast.
Yeah, me neither. And I mean, it absolutely deserves it. We've come to that agreement. Glad that we've started hitting it up again per our New Year's resolution, and I agree with Casey. I think hopefully we can hit it back up again, post March Madness.
Well, when Filburt wins it all, we're going to have to, right? We'll have to pick an episode involving Filburt.
Very true, Casey. Very true. I think that's all for me. Should we move on to conclusion time?
Let's do it. All right, guys, our Twitter poll for this week is, who is more unlucky, Eugene from Hey Arnold or Filburt from Rocko's Modern Life? We were trying to think of a Nick character comparison for this, and we thought Eugene is the perfect sort of example of the constantly unlucky character.
Yeah, Eugene's entire life is basically what this episode is, right? But, Eugene never destroyed the world, so I think there's...
Yeah, it's never quite as catastrophic as Filburt in this episode, and it's not like he's a lucky guy in his other episodes either.
No, absolutely not. So I'm, we'll see. We'll see how you guys feel about these two poor unlucky souls. Next week, we will be looking at Jimmy Neutron's Love Potion 976J in honor of Valentine's Day. So, I think it'll be interesting for sure. I'm willing to bet that it's not the most typical of Valentine's Day episodes, but I'm excited for this one.
Now, are you Team Jimmy Cindy or Team Jimmy Betty?
Oh, Jimmy Cindy for sure. Betty makes no sense.
Gotta be. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get into that next week. We'll have a lot of feelings. Social media blast. We got a Twitter, we got a Facebook, we got a YouTube, and we got an Apple Podcast. Hopefully you're listening to us on one of the two. Well, you have to be, right? There's no other way. Unless we're on, the dark net at this point. But
oh, we've gotten... Who knows?
I somehow doubt that.
What parts of the webs we're on. Anyways, thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you next week.